Alrighty. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming this evening. Now we've changed the name, the Soar Disability Ministry Network. So we're excited about that just because it's all virtual and we have people from all across the country joining. So that's fun. And so this is just a time where we're able to collaborate with other ministry leaders from around the country, share a little bit about what's going on in your ministry, and see how we can help one another. So I think that a lot of you are in different spots throughout your ministry, which is really exciting. You bring a lot of different experience. And so we love to just be able to facilitate a space where you guys can learn from one another and maybe get some different insights on what you can do to move forward in serving those with disabilities in your church. So with that, I would love just for us to go around, introduce ourselves, say, where you're from, where, what church you're at. And if you have any questions, kind of where your ministry is at, what that looks like right now, and kind of how what you're wanting to get out of tonight, or maybe what you're wanting to learn, that sort of thing. Anyone wants to start? Well, Adam, you were kind of already sharing a little bit about what you guys are doing. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. So my name is Adam Rice, and our group is Good Shepherd Fellowship Forever Abilities Matter, or short GSF-FAM. It is at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Manchester, Missouri. And so our group meets the second and fourth Wednesday of each month to get together for hands-on arts and crafts, worship, fellowship. And we also have a puppet ministry within the group. We started this group back in February of 2019. So it hasn't been running for very long, but we do a bunch of stuff. We've done puppet shows, puppet recordings on Zoom, which we also have available on YouTube. And you can find it on YouTube at GSF-FAM. You can also see our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/GSF-FAM.
Awesome. Love that. What do Sundays look like for this group, or do you do anything on the weekends?
We don't really do anything on the weekends.
Okay, great.
Because it would be difficult to do anything on the weekends, especially when most of our members go to different churches. And so that was kind of the issue on figuring, what days would work for everybody. And so that's why we figured Wednesdays would be best.
Cool. Love that. Do you have any questions or anything that you're wanting to talk through tonight?
I don't.
Okay, great. Leanne?
Sure. Thank you, Adam. I just had a question. What ages is this group for?
So this is a young adults ministry. So it ranges from people 16 to at least 30 years old. And I mean, eventually we'd like to expand that to maybe hopefully younger kids, maybe older adults. Because I mean, there's definitely the need out here and definitely in different areas. So
it sounds great for them, for your group. Sounds great. I'm Leanne Smith, and I am at First Baptist Church in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. And I am our special needs ministry coordinator. Our ministry is called Shepherding Hearts, and we serve in the children's department, and we provide assistance to children with special needs within the children's department. And it might be a buddy, it might be a youth buddy, and we do have a separate room if we have the need for children to be separated for a short period of time or for the whole teaching hours.
Awesome. Leanne, do you have anything you do have teens and adults ministry stuff?
We have a class that is for teens and older teens and adults. And right now, they are only meeting on Zoom. They haven't returned fully yet, although the families, I think, are coming to church. I'm not entirely sure why they haven't started meeting as a group, but our struggle has to do with coming back, I think, a lot from 2020 and all of the shutdown and the fear over being sick, especially in a medically fragile children, or just families with children who are vulnerable. And so I would be interested in any other ministries sharing their successes or struggles in that particular area.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you're wanting to kind of hear about from anyone else tonight, or have any questions on?
Not right off. I'm just interested in meeting other people and see what's hear what's going on with them.
Great. Quincy.
Hey guys, I'm Quincy. I am the special needs coordinator at Abundant Life Church in Lee Summit, Missouri. And my husband's a basketball coach, and he's out at a game tonight. So I am solo parenting a 7-month-old that's teething and a 2-year-old that's very tired. So please forgive any Zoom interruptions from me this evening. But we have a kids class and a teens and adults class and Wednesday night programming for our youth, and some respite, some parent support groups, and some different things going on in our special needs ministry. But I have some wins that I wanted to celebrate with y'all that we've rebranded, similar to this Kansas City, or not that Soar took out the Kansas City part, to just Abundant Life Special Needs, which I'm so thankful for, just bringing a lot of clarity to what we are and what we do. And so I'm super thankful for that. And we are adapting our discipleship avenue. We have an 18-week discipleship book that it's really encouraged at our church for everyone to go through. And one of my adult leaders was like, I want to do a discipleship class for the teens and adults. And I said, that's great. And we want to do it. But it was so much information over such a long period of time. We've just been chunking it up and taking it slowly. And we actually had a salvation come out of the second week of discipleship class. So,
that's
very cool.
So awesome.
Yeah, super cool. And we're celebrating that. And then lastly, our adult class at their Christmas party put together Christmas Eve snacks for the children during Christmas Eve service. And they've done that before, but this year it was showcased to the whole church. It had a little sign made by the special needs ministry. So that was just a really sweet way that we could show the way that we give back.
Yeah, that's really exciting, Quincy, to see how you guys are becoming more and more known to the rest of the church. Because for you guys that aren't around here, Abundant Life is quite a large church. And so definitely has a big opportunity to grow. So that's really exciting. Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca Straub. I'm in Plymouth, Minnesota, close to Lisa Jamison with Walk Right In Ministries. I partner with her in the Real Talk ministry. And my heart is for the moms mentoring program that you ladies or your ministry, Soar ministry, is spearheading. So I joined tonight to just kind of get a better sense of the people at Soar and just kind of hear what's going on. I'm part of a small church called Berean Baptist Church, but out of 80 people, we have about 20% that are disabled in some way. So we have a high percentage of disabilities, and it's a beautiful church. They don't have any programs, but they love each other well. And I've really enjoyed that. I came from a large church a couple of years ago that had nothing. And this small church does a better job loving the families than the large church did. So I think I answered everything, but tell me if I didn't, Elizabeth.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm excited. I was like, I know your name sounds familiar. That makes sense to why it sounds familiar now. So glad that you joined. And also, like, how cool about your church. Like, I love hearing about those tiny churches that are just doing an amazing job. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Katie?
Yeah, I am Katie. I am from Lee Summit, Missouri as well. So I am very familiar with Abundant Life, but not with their special needs ministry. I go to Fellowship Church. We have a campus in Greenwood, Missouri and Raymore, Missouri, and are starting, sorry, my cat is, we're starting a campus in Archie, Missouri. But we do not have a special needs ministry currently. But I am seeing the need for one because our church is growing very fast and we're getting a lot more kids and young adults with special needs and really don't have a lot of volunteers trained to help. So I see the need for younger kids ministry. And then I have a recently adopted 18-year-old and soon to be 20-year-old that have now gotten out of youth group, and we don't have a good place for them, especially on Wednesday nights. So.
Yeah, we can definitely talk through that because I know several people on here have some awesome experiences with students and adult ministry that would love to share that. Great. Doc?
Yeah, so sorry guys, apologize for me being late getting on. I obviously need a buddy tonight, and Elizabeth wasn't right there with me to be my buddy tonight, so apologize there, me with my technical difficulties. But I'm the executive director and founder of Soar Special Needs, and oversee this wonderful organization. Excited to have y'all here tonight, and love being able to help churches be able to start ministry and take what they have and take it to the next level. To date, we've assisted over 400 churches and doing ministry throughout the United States and 11 countries around the world. So we've got a goal to assist 1,000 churches within the next 5 years. So we're well on our goal, and that's a big part of Elizabeth's job as well. And we're excited to have her on the team with us. So excited for the talk tonight, and you know, as I'm sure Elizabeth already said it, but anything and everything goes. We can talk about anything going on, but one thing we just want to remind everyone is we are recording it. So, don't be sharing names, so that we can go ahead and share this with others who may be struggling with something with that. So we just want to ensure privacy of people with that, but we can still talk through, ages, diagnoses, so that we can help one another if there are problems or whatever it is. But we've got a whole realm of experience here, and this time we can all come together and make each of us stronger and see what we can do for one another.
Yeah. All right. And then I'm Elizabeth Barnett. I work for Soar. I'm the church relations director. So I help facilitate all of our church partnerships and outreach with that. And so love being able to assist churches and being able to grow their reach in serving this population. And am also overseeing our conference, which is great, a wonderful resource to a lot of people. And like Rebecca mentioned, I'm also overseeing parent mentoring project that's kind of in the works for Soar, has been for a little while, still will be for a little while, but it's really exciting where we're able to provide opportunities for parents who are struggling to be matched up with other parents that understand the journey that they're going through, and being able to just walk alongside one another. So that's something that, if you guys have any interest in being a part of that, let me know. We've come up with some great ideas for that, and something that we're really excited for in the future. But for this time, I really want to just go through and start off with talking through some of the things that were mentioned as you guys were going around and introducing yourself. And I know Leanne mentioned coming back difficulties from just COVID and all of that, and especially now with having different surges of COVID and different levels of cases. You see more and more times where there may be less people in your congregation. And how have you guys all navigated coming back? What does that look like for your ministry? Are you guys in person? Yeah, I'll throw that out there.
For a while, so I think last year we had went back to meeting in person in June, but then when I believe it was the Delta variant started up, we actually went back to doing virtual. And when we went back to meeting in person, the issue was people that didn't want to come, making sure that they were still able to be there virtually. But once I got somebody to just be in charge of the virtual part of it, it definitely made it a lot easier to mix in both the in-person and virtual. And so I think that symbolized it and it definitely made it a lot easier for our ministry.
Yeah, I love that idea of having, a virtual coordinator, because I think it's really easy for people to get lost whenever they're not physically there. And especially you may have some volunteers that maybe love your ministry and the people there that aren't comfortable being back yet, and that they can invest in that way, especially as, people may come one Sunday and then decide they're not comfortable the next, or, whatever that looks like. And also having that person be responsible for checking in on those people, I think is really important, because, it's easy whenever someone walks into your room to say, hey, how are you doing? And not forget about them, but it can be harder whenever you're not seeing them as often. So I think that's a really good idea. Any other thoughts on coming back? I know for us at Soar, we restarted in-person events in May of 2021, and we have not stopped those. However, we have been very much aware of kind of what that looks like and changed protocols. And even for our upcoming respite in February, we had some conversations of like, okay, well, maybe we should lower our numbers for this one because of the facility that we're at, and that sort of thing. And I think what has been really key is having really good communication with our families, and just trying to continue to check in with them, and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. We've noticed that a lot of our families have really vastly different levels of comfort and expectations. And so some of them, have said, we're not coming back at all for, whatever period of time. We're not coming back unless, whatever things are put in place, or, we don't want to come back because whatever things are put in place. So it kind of, just figuring out what all those things are, and just continuing to invest in your families, I think is the biggest thing, and reaching out, reminding them that you're there. Leanne, do you have any other thoughts, questions on that?
Well, I'm fascinated with Adam's program that he's describing, because I think that's great. It seems like around here, that's often the neglected population is the older teens and the young adults. We do have a respite program connected with Buddy Break. You may have heard of that. It doesn't meet in our church. It meets in another church, and it has not returned at all. But it serves mainly children. It does go up into the teen years, and depending on the disability, you might have an older teen. But I think that's great. That you're doing that, Adam. How many how many participants do you have?
There is at least 11 or 12 of us only so far. I've definitely had people interested, and I'm sure, eventually we'll grow and add more people. But that takes time over
How
years.
many volunteers do you typically have to help?
Usually 2 or 3 volunteers to help. And there's other parents that have volunteered to help also, so we can always bring them in if we ever need more volunteers.
That's great that you're doing that.
And you need to check out their YouTube page and that their videos. They've got some outstanding stuff. They do a great job. I love it.
I made a note of it, so I am going to check it out. It may be something that would help our class. That age group and the people who lead that. It really may inspire them and help them with that, what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely really love teens and adults ministry. It's amazing. And so it sounds like pretty much everyone on here has some experience with that. And I know, Katie, that's what you've had some questions about. And so I'd love if everyone kind of shared a little bit about like what that looked like for their church, or kind of their thoughts on that, and what has been helpful, maybe what hasn't worked, or that sort of thing. And I really want Quincy's input on this, but she's currently helping with children, so she'll be back in a few minutes. But until then, Doc, would you share about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
I remember when we started back in 2019, when I wanted to start this group, I went to one of the pastors at the church, and he was an older pastor, and when I explained to him, the kind of group I wanted to start, he didn't really see the need for a group like this. And I was kind of like, that doesn't make sense. I see the need for it at this church. So then I talked to one of the other pastors over youth ministries, and she was like, I definitely see the need for this at this church. I'm going to connect you with the pastor over adult ministries. Once I connected with him and his wife, and I sat down and I had a meeting with them, they looked into everything. They talked to other churches, got the word out there about us starting up this group. And then that's when everything started coming together. We had, parents that, wanted to help out. We had participants that wanted to join this group. And I definitely think that's, word of mouth, making sure, if this is something you truly believe in, definitely, voice your opinion and definitely get it out there.
Yeah. I think, Adam's group actually participated as some of the worship for for our conference, Wonderfully Made. And as I think through a lot of the really successful teens and adults ministries that I know, and really any disability ministry, there's a level of church interaction that's really high and community interaction that's really high. And that's how people know about it. And so, for Adam, you guys are out in the community, and I know that's true for a lot of the other churches I know that have really successful things going on and doing a lot of community outreach in that way.
Yes, I would just add to what Adam says about trying to start something. That's what I did. I went to our ministerial staff and started there and said, we need this. And it takes a while for people to understand that it is a need. But I had been to a workshop, and so I was equipped with some numbers. And that's always a little startling when you say 95% of families with a special needs family member are unchurched or not participating in church. And then you go, that's a huge unreached group, and there is a need. And you being a parent, Katie, even gives more voice to that. There is a need because I have a need. We have a need. So yeah, that's where I started. And that sounds like where Adam started, to find an advocate and a champion in your staff.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Well, I have brought it up to one of the pastors, well, both of the pastors, and they're in agreement that there's a need. I just think they have a lot going on. And so they had said if it was something I wanted to start, that I would have their support, but that I would be in charge of it. And that's a little intimidating. How to find volunteers, how to get those volunteers trained, and even where to start, because I can't do everything that I want to do. Like, I don't feel like I can start with children that just need buddies, and children that maybe need their own room because their special needs are very high and they can't be in a class with their peers. And then teens and young adults, Respite is just, there's such a big gamut of special needs. I don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Soar will probably help you because that's what they do, and they'll give you some steps and guidance. But just from an experience point of view, it can be overwhelming to think about. But as I mentioned when I talked with them, and what they advised is a leadership team.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. The very first thing was to gather people around me, that whether they were going to volunteer or not was not important, but just to give guidance to what to do first, what kind of documentation do we need, and how do we go about doing things. And so you're not alone, gather people around you. And obviously in my journey to start over, I got to start back at the beginning, it feels like, and gather those folks around me again.
Yeah, but I agree. There's definitely a need. And I feel like as a special needs parent, like, I don't want to have to be the one that follows my son around and keeps him where he's
Absolutely.
supposed to be, because that's what I do all week.
Right.
And so I can totally see special needs parents who maybe aren't Christians being willing to come to church and drink a coffee and sit in the sanctuary for an hour or two just to get a break if they know their kids are being cared for and looked after for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So first, Kate, we'd love to come alongside you, help you with everything. But, the first part of that is you don't have to, immediately plan for this big ministry. You just start with what you already have and meet the needs of the people you have. And there truly is a myth out there. And I've been part of this myth, and I thought it for a while, and I'm a parent and I should have known better. But the myth is, if you build it, they will come. That is not true. They don't. And you shared you're a parent. I want you to think about that as a parent of a child with special needs. Are you about to take your child anywhere and let someone put them in someone else's care until you know they have a record and a history of taking care of kids with special needs? No, you don't. You're not. Yeah, and whose recommendation are you going to take? Are you going to take them saying, "Oh yeah, we do disability ministry, we do it really well"? Are you going to take their word for it? Or are you going to take another family who's actually been in the ministry and they'll say, "Oh yeah, you know what? Our church actually does a good job with it." You're going to listen to the family, and it does grow, but it's slow over time. And, I thought the same thing like you did, yeah, we'll hang it out and we'll get everyone come. It doesn't happen. And just because you say you have a special needs or disability ministry, it's not going to be bringing people in. But what brings people in is the parents talking to other parents in the community and sharing, yeah, you know what? My church, they're doing a great job with Johnny or with Sally, and they're not afraid of them, and they're welcome them, and they love them. And guess what? I can actually sit for an hour in church with my husband, or I can drink a cup of coffee there and not worry about my child. That's when it starts to grow. But yeah, absolutely. Elizabeth will reach out to you later, and we'd love to set you up. We've got training. We've got all those things to help you. So don't feel like you have to sit here and try to figure out how to invent the wheel. We've done that for you. And so It's not restarting anything, and we'll share it all with you. We'll help you all with it. But you can do it. And it's one of the things I tell every church, we work with. Volunteers are always a big concern, and everybody's always looking for volunteers, and it's always a big problem. And that's one of my favorite areas to talk about. And I'm not going to lie. Yeah, it's always hard to find volunteers, but you have to work at it. And I've actually found and learned some very good tips on getting volunteers that really work well. But every church I know is usually an 80-20 rule. 80% of the work's done by 20% of the people. What I always say, and many on here have heard me say this, that means 80% of the people are just sitting in the pews, and all they are glorified knickknacks collecting dust. And we have to find something that they'd be interested in so that they'll no longer be a knickknack. And it very well could be that a special needs or disability ministry may be what excites them and actually allows the Holy Spirit to light a fire under the rear that they'll get up and get involved. And so, it's not getting volunteers from other ministries. It's finding people who have a passion about this and want to get in place. And it's getting the right people and putting them in the right area. And that's the secret to making any ministry work, is getting people who are passionate. And I honestly don't ask volunteers to serve. I ask them to pray about it. I make God do all my heavy lifting for me. And then I come in and I just close the deal. And God does all the heavy work for me. It's awesome.
Yeah. I wrote down to reach out to you tomorrow to schedule something so we can talk through all of that. But would just love to be able to come alongside you in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Quincy, I would love, because Katie was talking about just student, teens, and adults ministry, for you to share a little bit about what you guys are doing, because I think it's really cool.
Our teens and adults program has just surprised me at how much it's grown. And it is, I'm sure as Adam can attest, that's his whole ministry. And so that is a huge area of need. We do some of our students come on Wednesday nights to the youth group. And we do one-on-one buddies for that. And we try to make that as inclusive as possible. We don't have a separate space for them. They're just included with their peers with a buddy. And then on Sunday mornings, we have teens and adults class. So it's like more of a Sunday school class with the structure. That's what I was sharing when we adapted the discipleship book out. That's the classroom we're doing that in. And it has like a worship time and a lesson and a memory verse. It really reminds me a lot of a community group. They're really close friends, all of them. And then very recently, within the last year, we've really been pushing, I shouldn't say pushing, but encouraging and finding the right place for them to serve. So especially if they're there for 2 services, I'm actually working with a really young teen. She's 12, so she's technically 6th grade, but on finding a serve opportunity for her because she comes to both services, and she was telling the teachers, the second teacher, you've already said that. And it was like, no, this is a new class, but yes, you've already heard it before. So I was like, all right, let's find somewhere for you to serve today. And so that's another thing we're working on, and getting them out in the church environment, wherever they feel called. Just like Doc was talking about with those knickknacks collecting dust. We don't want that for our students. We want them out there doing what God's called them to do. So we try to do socials every other month. It's not always perfect, but we have one coming up in February for Valentine's Day, where we do pizza, put together, we're going to be putting together like bags for nurses at the hospital, like little care package bags, a craft, a dance party, something simple. They're always like super, super simple. I don't put a lot of planning or energy into those because they just want a place and space to hang out and be with their friends. But then like the respite events are more what we put a lot, and the teens and adults are invited to respite. And I always try to be intentional in making spaces that aren't as kid looking, like more of like an adult grown up space with board games or something for that they would be interested in doing at a respite event. Anything else, Elizabeth, that I could add to that? Or
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it. I know you do a lot for teens and adults, which is amazing.
Quincy, what night is the social in February?
We're doing it Sunday, February 6th at 1, like right after church. If you can give me your email, or Elizabeth can get me your email, I'll send you the flyer with the information. Okay.
Because we're close. So until I have a ministry, my 18-year-old especially would probably think that was fun. He's always wanting new friends and things to go do.
Absolutely. I get that.
Yes. I'll make sure to connect you too. That's awesome. Hi, Amy. Thanks for joining.
Amy, I apologize on the confusion with the 2 registrations.
Oh, no worries at all. I logged in and no one was here. And
no, I'm so sorry. I'm a lughead, so I didn't listen very well to Elizabeth.
I said, Doc, I've already created the link. Why are you making more work for yourself? But that's what happens. Amy, I don't believe that we have met before. Would you mind introducing yourself and just kind of telling me, where you're at, what you do, that sort of thing?
Sure. I'm Amy. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm not here on behalf of my church. I'm just here as an individual. I'm disabled myself, and I get the flyers or emails, and I thought, I'll come and check it out and see what all you wonderful people are doing. And if if there are ways to collaborate or anything like that, I'm not sure, but yeah, hello.
Cool. Was there anything?
I'm sorry, I've got to ask you, where are you? I love the accent.
I'm in California, but by way of Australia. I'm from Australia.
I thought it might be Australia.
Yeah. I've also lived in London, so the accent's pretty muddled by now, but yeah.
Awesome.
I'm a citizen of heaven.
Awesome. There you go. Amen.
I love that. Do you have any particular questions or things that you're wanting to hear tonight, talk through? Great. We were just chatting about teens and adults ministry specifically and how that population is kind of served within each of our churches. That's a huge, huge area of need. So have any of you done any sort of things with reaching out to group homes in your area? I'm always curious about that one.
At one time, our ministry did and was, I don't think we actually had a bus, but we did have a member that would go by and bring over some of the residents from there to the class. I can't speak much to it, except that I know it seemed from my perspective that it was successful and met a need. And it did require some folks from our church to come alongside them as they came and make sure they went to the class and make sure that they got back the ride back and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of extra facilitating, but that's definitely, I worked in group homes for a little while, and like actually where kind of I got my passion for this ministry from. But that's always an area that I think through, like that's a population that really doesn't go anywhere. It has very little contact. So I was curious if you guys were doing anything with that. I know Doc's
Last
done a little bit.
year for Valentine's Day, we actually made those. I'm trying to think of what they are. They're like almost like window hangers where, like, you know, it has like different color lights that, you know, come through when the sun goes through them. And we handed those out at a nursing home in the area.
Cool. Love that. That's awesome. Well, other thoughts on teens and adults ministry or anything otherwise? We do. I think one of the most fun things that we've done since we restarted our respite is having a teens and adult specific respite. And we've really been able to do that just because of kind of where we're at as an organization and being able to do a respite on Friday night and then one on Saturday. So we're still facilitating one for all ages. And so that's been really fun. If like Friday night, we'll have just teens and adults that come. And it's honestly, I think my favorite one, just because they have so much fun interacting with one another. We try to have some activities that are more geared towards them. That's something that we're still kind of working towards, getting more of that, and facilitating more opportunities for them. And then on Saturday, then we'll have a respite that is open for all ages. But because we offer the Friday night teens and adults, the Saturday one tends to be younger. So.
I think respite night is going to be something we're going to try to do. Mm-hmm. And that seems a little overwhelming to me because of the number of the volunteers that I feel like we need to have. And based on the model from Buddy Break, it was one-on-one. Every child had a buddy. Mm-hmm. And so that, you know, I'd be interested in hearing some ways to go about doing and thinking about doing a respite night.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody want to share how they do respite before we chime in? Doc or I? All right.
I think Quincy said that y'all have one. Your church is Abundant Life Church, is that right?
Yeah, we have had respites. My very first one on staff was pre-COVID, and there was probably like 60 participants And since COVID, we've not gone over 35. So they're quite small, a lot smaller, which I love because then I actually get to talk to everybody individually. But I would love to see them grow. A lot of what Doc was saying about thinking, oh, well, if you have respite, like people will come to your church, like people want respite. And yes, people want respite, but they want it from a reliable source that they trust. And so just learning that and like taking that to heart and just helping our families promote the ministry. But yeah, what those look like are, we've been doing them on Saturday afternoons, which we really love. We welcome them and do a short Devo, and then we break off and let them go to different areas of the kids wing. We have like a sensory room, a craft room, a Lego room, like that like teens and adult space with like board games and cards. And we have a movie room, and it has snacks in the beginning, and then towards the end of the event, closer to dinner time, we serve pizza. And then there's also a separate area for siblings, and that's for just for them to have their own special space away, that they get to do their own activities and be with their peers too, and have some adults love on them as well. So everyone's paired with a one-on-one or two-on-one buddies, depending on the age of the buddies, like, or just depending on the situation. Sometimes it's one-on-one and sometimes it's two-on-one, but it's always really fun because they get a lot of choice and they're not forced. They don't have to do anything, and they get to pick what they get to do, and it's always really fun themes. And yeah.
Our respites are set up pretty much identical to Quincy's in terms of how the flow works and that sort of thing. We at Soar like really emphasize figuring out what's going to work for your church, and so we don't have any sort of like a boxed, respite kind of package. We go to churches all over the Metro KC area, and even though they look pretty similar there, it's different at every one, and we have to figure out what's going to work for the space. And sometimes some of the different packages can be intimidating in that if you don't have the right setup for it. And so that's where, we're happy to help brainstorm with you too on that. So something that we've had is pre-COVID, we had, 160 participants at a respite, which is massive. And they all had a one-on-one buddy. So it's, 400 to 500 volunteers whenever you include that we have 90 siblings that we're also taking, which is intimidating to think about, but it did not start off that way. And so even now, especially with COVID, we've been averaging, about 20 participants at a respite time spot. Some have been bigger, some have been smaller, but I would say on average about 20. And what we've even done with some of them, because we were concerned about volunteers and we've had a lot of volunteer struggles in recruiting, is we've set those numbers of participants lower. And then as we've gotten the volunteers that we need, we will take people off the wait list. And so that's been a really good solution for us, and been something where we're able to figure out a number where we feel confident in being able to get the volunteers for, 10 participants, 15 participants, 20 participants, and then adding on from there. So hopefully that's helpful. And we can even send you to some of like our lists of where we have volunteers. So like we do one-on-one buddies. We rarely do two-on-one, but sometimes we will, depending on the level of need there. And even there have been times where we have had 2 participants to 1 volunteer, but we really, really do not like doing that. And so just because it doesn't allow for as much independence and freedom for them to choose what they want to do. And then we have all of our different rooms have a volunteer in there that will help kind of lead those activities and make sure that policies are upheld if no one's one-on-one with anybody. And then we also have a full like medical team. So especially for our smaller respites, that looks like, maybe 1 nurse or medical person, or 2, we prefer 2, but sometimes it's, one. And then we'll have our staff and coordinators. And who else am I missing, Doc? We normally have a couple of security people just to make sure no one's leaving the building.
Medical.
Yeah, medical. I said medical.
Okay. And then behavior, we have a behavior team too watching it, but yeah. But the one of the big things that I really can't emphasize enough is that you have one volunteer in every room, like Elizabeth said, because that way it completely, takes care of the never leaving anyone one-on-one. That way, when you have one person in the room running that room, they're making sure everything's safe in there. But that way, if someone comes in who's already one-on-one, they automatically have someone else with them, so that you don't have to worry about, them being by themselves. So that's a big safety and security thing. Yeah. And then we also have set up and tear down teams. Some people can't serve during the night, or they don't want to. They're too fearful of it, but they have no problem helping, set everything up and tear everything down. And we need that just as much. So.
Leanne, I would also encourage you in terms of like recruiting the volunteers for Respite is thinking outside of those that you already have on the weekends. There's going to be so many people that want to volunteer at Respite that do not want to volunteer at on the weekends. Youth groups your youth group is a great place to get that. Especially if you say that you're going to sign service hour forms, they're going to come in like droves to come serve with you. And those like young adults, especially if you have some young adults at your church, college age students, they're huge in terms of helping. And then partnering with, if you have a college near you, seeing, if you can reach out to them. That's how we've gotten a lot of people. Even whenever we were a part of a church here, we had a sorority that would come and serve at every single Respite, like 20 of them. And that's huge. So I
drove 2 hours one way to do it.
Yeah. So those are incredible partnerships that you may not think about of like, oh, well, I can't do that with my church. That, yeah, you can do that. And it's an amazing way to share the gospel with people that aren't attending your church. Because for us, we just have required a background check if you're over 18. And it's a really fun way for them to come and serve.
One of my questions was about, sorry, Leanne, go ahead.
No, I just had a question about what you said about bringing in folks, though. What kind of upfront training or information, or do you give them about what they need to do or not do, or what your expectations are? Or...
Yeah. So you can actually even look on our website. We have a whole training page. And so what we do is we've recorded some videos of what we think is important for people to know about serving at Respite. And so one is like kind of a general overview of what Respite is like. One is our COVID policies. Those are two that everyone watches. And then they watch another video based on their role. So if they're serving in a room, what that looks like. If they're serving as part of the medical team, or if they're serving as a one-on-one buddy. And if they're serving as a one-on-one buddy, then they have some information about how to approach different behaviors that they might see. So helping with transitions or that sort of thing. And then we ask them to answer a couple questions afterwards. We've also done it where people come, a little bit before Respite and they get a training there. We actually still kind of do both because we have everyone watch these videos ahead of time, but we have our volunteers arrive a half hour before our participants do. And then we have a little volunteer meeting. And within that, we kind of go over policies that are the most important, again, just so that people don't forget them. And we just have people get trained once. We've talked about how we probably need to figure out a way to re-up that, potentially depending on how long it's been since you've served, that sort of thing. But that's just a conversation for your leadership team and what you feel like is necessary for your church.
And what we found, first off, obviously, you need a background check on everyone over 18. But I want to challenge you. You don't have to do the same training that you would do on a weekend, because it's going to be completely different. So for a weekend training, I do an intense, hour and 30-minute training. You don't need that for this. In fact, that's why we encourage you to develop a behavior team, and they're going to handle the major behaviors. You just need to give the high level to let them know what they need to do. If someone watched all of our videos for it, it would be 20 minutes. So we're not talking about overwhelming them or anything. And so you want it be easy, want an easy on-ramp. And then if they do more with you, you can do more training. Our exception, then, we also run a camp in the summer. Our camp is pretty intense. It's 8 hours a day for 5 days. That's a whole different one. We do a more intense training with that, and that's a little bit longer. But it's still not quite the same as our weekend one, because everything's going to be a little bit different with it. So, I'd really encourage you to look at what you're dealing with and going from there. But you want to have easy on-ramps for people and not overwhelm them.
Right.
Yeah. Quincy, what does preparing your volunteers look like?
I need to do better. But yeah, I just most basically do that 30-minute meeting in the front end of it with the highlights. But it's a really good idea to send videos out in advance with their registration too. They can watch those at their leisure. My question for Respite was about the med team. I can admit here, because it's a safe space, that when I first started doing Respites, we didn't have anybody on site that could handle medical emergencies. And that was always a huge stressor for me. But I'm happy to say now I have at least 1 or 2 volunteers that are registered nurses that can help in case of emergency. But my question is, if y'all have any great suggestions or ideas how to safely and confidently share the medical information with the team. Is that before the event? Is that at the event? Last time I just kind of gave her, and it's terrible, I have this like ginormous binder of like plans, and I just pointed out the ones that were going to be at the event, and I just felt like it was a lot of reading and probably a lot of unnecessary information. So just what's the best way to streamline that?
Yeah, we have like all of our plans of care like you do for all of our participants on site. But what we've also done is kind of made like a highlight sheet for our, like a medical overview sheet. And it says, if anything is kind of important on there, and Doc, being a physician, has all of his, little acronyms that they all understand. But it also says, if there's anything really important on there, like they're a diabetic or they have a seizure action plan, that sort of thing. And we also have a med station available whenever parents come to drop off, like it's right next to volunteer check-in and family check-in. And so if they happen to have meds, if they have a need to talk to the medical person, we encourage the families to do that at that time. And then if we know specifically about any one participant that we're have an exceptional kind of need for them to be aware of, then we'll go and speak with them on that.
Along with that, we only pull out the ones of the individuals who are coming. I don't have the binder of everybody because that's too confusing. So for the sheet that I have with everyone, it's a Google Doc, and I copy and paste, and I just update with who's there that time. So they get a real quick one page that they can look at with all the information. And then we've got the plan of care of just those individuals if we need more details. So, the key is to make it simple for your folks. They really don't need the information ahead of time. You can just give it to them when they show up. They're not going to do anything with it earlier. And honestly, they're not going to look at it if you send it to them earlier. They'll just deal with it once they get there and then talk to the parents.
Yeah. If you're doing a camp, it is a little bit more intense, and we have a lot more protocols on the front end of making sure that our medical team is prepared for that. But that is many, many more hours of caring for individuals and a lot more medications and all sorts of things that happen with that. So not quite as much of a concern for respite. Any other thoughts on respite or otherwise? Cool. Anything else that you guys are wanting to talk through tonight? Any other questions that have come up?
I have a question. It's a really big one. So if it can't be talked about right now, it's totally fine. But I've just been getting a lot of calls lately from families in the ministry. And by a lot, I mean like 2, but of concerns that the government is not providing some of the things that they have been providing before, and resources are getting more limited out there. And they're calling me and saying, can the church provide housing, long-term housing? Can the church provide mental health things and things that I'm like, I don't know anything about this. So I would love to hear from the parents or people that have walked this and lived this, like what is this tension, and what are there any things that we could be doing or thinking about doing?
Quincy, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to hear everyone's answers. I know Doc has some thoughts.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll let anyone else talk if they want to, but
Just interrupt him. He's fine.
please. I'd say first off, it is extremely hard right now because for everybody, benefits are being eroded away for everybody. And it is a very hard time. Inflation is, sky high right now on top of it. And there are a lot of things that are disappearing. A lot of organizations that provide things are no longer in existence. COVID has really been hard for a lot of those. A lot of them have been nonprofits, and COVID has just not been good. As a nonprofit, I can speak. We launched shortly before COVID started, and we were going strong. It was amazing, and then COVID hit, and our donations dropped off over 90%. And it's pretty much been like that since. So it's really hard for nonprofits right now to be making it. So I fully understand that. Saying that, is it the church's place to come in and be able to provide that and do that? No, because you'd be inundated and there's no way you can do it. Trying to find the resources and all that is somewhere you have to be real careful. One of the, I know everyone's heart is we want to help our families. We want to try to help them find resources. The big thing I would encourage everyone to say is never promise them that you'll try to find something, because parents in these situations, they take that as gospel truth that you are going to help them and you're going to do something. And you may have the best intentions in the world to you really try to find something and figure something out, but you may come back with nothing. And then this family is going to feel that you and the church really let them down, and they're going to leave the church over that, and they'll be upset. So, you can, what I would encourage you to tell them is, first pray with them and say, we've got to, bathe this in prayer. I don't have any answers for you. I don't know what to tell you, but I'll try to check and see if I can find anything, and I'll let you know if I learn of anything. But I don't know of anything off the top of my head. You can reach out to us. We do have a couple of people who may have some resources that we can put you in touch with. One is Georgia Mueller. She just started her own company, and she's an amazing whiz. She's an advocate for families. She's a parent herself, and she might be able to know some resources and ways to get around things. But it is extremely hard. So that would be the biggest thing I'd say is don't promise anyone anything. make sure you take the time and just pray for them. That's one of the biggest things. Their world is crashing in on them, and they're hopeful the church is going to be able to help them out. Now, saying that, your church may have a benevolence program. And so, you can refer them to the benevolence program at your church if that might be of assistance, if finances may be a part of that. Just to kind of help them for a month to kind of, get on their feet and try to figure something out. But I don't know any church that's going to be able to help with housing and provide housing even for that. So those are big ones there.
Yeah, it was like the long-term he was telling me about long-term housing for their adult dependents is like, just everyone was just talking about how the resources out there, like you said, from COVID and from the government, just things are kind of shrinking and shriveling. And
yeah, so and this isn't new. This has been going for quite a while. So actually it started back with the Obama administration, cut off funding for adult housing and that. And so there were a lot more group homes than there are now. And a lot of the group homes literally disappeared overnight. And a lot of them have been trying to find ways to make it, and things have just been building up over time. That combined with many allegations against them for different things and not doing their due diligence and having the right employees and making sure everything's there, something bad happens and it gets shut down. And then, all of a sudden you've got all these individuals out on the street, and frequently these are adults, which means their parents are usually aging adults in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who can no longer care for their adult children in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And so that makes it really difficult. And there really are not a lot of places. That's why that's one big thing for us, a Soar, that's heavy on our hearts. That's something we will be doing in the future. We're just not there yet. We're not ready. We're praying, and I'd encourage you guys to pray with us that we'll be able to get the funding and everything we need, and God will provide that we'll be able to do that. But one day we want to be able to be purchasing hotels and apartments and convert them into independent living, group living, and assisted living facilities and family living facilities for our friends. So, but because there's a whole lot more needed.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Since I've got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, that we're going to be in that situation at some point. I was just curious, are there support groups for the parents? Because I feel like if parents were meeting, or even if there was just a Facebook group for the parents to share ideas, information, resources that they have found that are helpful, that might be beneficial. Or, and parents that are at different stages. So some special needs parents who have teenagers might be a good resource to special needs parents who are just starting out with kids in kindergarten. IEPs and navigating even school things.
Right.
I know of several local churches that have support groups, one of which is Abundant Life. But also, that's something where we're trying, that's an area that we would like to do more in, that we're trying to. Our capacity right now is not very great for it. But we definitely want to see that we're able to support that need. Know that it's there.
And one thing I'd always, say, just put a word of warning out when looking at support groups and trying to do them. Many have started and a lot of them have completely failed and gone away, because frequently, especially in our population, get parents together, and honestly, a support group turns quickly into a complaint group where everyone just whines and says all the bad things going on and slams on everything, and it goes downhill very quickly. So, if you're doing one, you have to have a moderator who's going to be a very good moderator who can keep everything on track. or the overwhelming majority of the support groups that I know in town that are going, don't have an open discussion like you're talking about where they can just talk on something. Instead, they will have a speaker come in and speak on a topic where they can hear and just kind of fill their tool belt, because it is extremely difficult once you start going down that road. It rolls quickly and gets out of control and gets extremely ugly. I've been in those environments. We used to run a support group, and that's really the big reason we stopped, because we didn't have moderators who could control it, and I couldn't be in there every single time because we were also then providing childcare for the parents, and I was trying to take care of the kids. So those were the issues, and that's the other part too, is, to have the support group be successful, you need to be able to have the childcare for it. So some of them try to do virtual, and that doesn't work for everybody. So it's just, being patient and trying to find it. There are some around, but again, just not as many as pre-COVID. Again, COVID has changed everybody's world, and we've got a new normal, and we're just trying to still learn and adjust from it and move forward with it. It's still changing, like it or not. You want to talk about your support group, Quincy?
That's what I was hoping you would do.
Sure, absolutely. I can't take any credit for it. It's been in place before I was here, and we're very thankful we have a great moderator, like Doc was saying. She's a grandparent of a special needs child, so she's very aware of the situations, but a step removed at least, so she can really relate to parents, but still be able to pour into them, without pouring from an empty cup, you could say. And they do have speakers come in, and most recently they've been doing book studies. They only meet once a month, so I think they read like one chapter a month, which, I mean, sometimes that's not even doable, and I get it. Like, I'm a parent of 2 littles, and sometimes I can't read a chapter every month, but it helps keep them on track, talking about the same things, talking about issues, but keeping it in light of the gospel and in light with the hope that we have in Christ. So they meet once a month during a church service. So that's the childcare piece. We already have the Sunday school class, so that helps with their kids.
I think that time helps a lot because of being able to have the 2 services, so they're not really missing. And I know that's something that we always talk about whenever people are thinking about starting support groups, is making sure that childcare is available, because otherwise they're not going to show up. And so I think that's a great.
Yeah, so we have parents support group at 9:30. They can come to that with childcare, and then they could also go to the later service, so they can still go to a service if they need to or want to.
Great. Any other thoughts on support groups or resources? It's definitely something that is lacking, but I'm curious, like, whenever, some of everyone else, I know that families ask for resources. It's just something that happens. What is y'all's kind of response to that? What do you want to be able to see that happens, I guess? We always just kind of try and brainstorm as a team and come up with the best solution that we can.
Does Soar have like a list of local resources that they can pass out, or how do you guys do that when families come to you?
We're
You
developing.
need to develop one.
Yeah, we have a lot that are in our heads, and a lot that we say, oh, we need to write that down. So it's on the list of things to do.
And like the local school districts have a lot of things, right, that they direct. Maybe I could reach out to the school district and ask where they direct families.
Yeah,
I'd send them to Missouri Family to Family too.
Okay.
That's one of the first ones, especially for anyone living in Missouri.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it depends on what the need is, to, sometimes there's different social workers that they can get in contact with through like doctors that can be a little bit helpful, sometimes not very helpful, but sometimes somewhat helpful. So I think it depends a lot on what that need is. I've definitely learned that there are resources available, but sometimes they take a lot of digging to get to. Right. Any other thoughts or anything that anyone wants to talk through? All right, well, I guess I'll give you guys some of your time back. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I would love just to be able to pray over you guys and your ministries before we go. Dear God, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for all of these ministry leaders and the ways that they are leading in their community, and all of their incredible just ideas and passions and just recognition for this population. I pray that you would just equip them and empower them. I pray that you would bring them the volunteers that they need, and the support that they need and the resources that they need, and that you would just continue to fill them with passion for what they're doing, and help them to just have the energy that they need to be able to do the work well, and that they would just be able to share you with these amazing families, because that is the ultimate goal, that they would come to know Christ, and just be able to share your love with more people. I just pray that you would just continue to facilitate conversations, and that if SOAR can be of any resource to any of them, that they would reach out and that we would be able to assist. I just pray this all in your name. Amen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so
Thank
much
you.
for coming tonight.
All right, let us
Thank
know how we
you.
can help y'all. You'll have a great evening.
Thanks.
Bye.